Hello, Internet family. This is Anjanette Potter, also known as Adam's Rib, and you are listening to Monday Night Quarterback. So, also Music Mondays. I'm going to keep this as both, kind of hypernated for forever. Okay. I have a music blog. I sing. I am ready to start considering, going back to school to fulfill my music minor, see how that goes or whatever, but I'm not quitting music ministry. So the last few times I've been on here, I've been talking about spiritual abuse. I'm going to continue to talk about it. And the devil has been doing some really weird things with the people around me. So, as I've said before, I've become addicted to YouTube. I think a lot of it is because, unlike series TV or live TV where you have, a certain amount of time that you have to be on there, the channels that I watch are able to get a whole lot of information in a little bit of time. And so, I'm able to look up old stuff. Like I said before, I've kind of been on a thing with watching a lot of old sitcoms or old shows that I used to watch in the past. And so watching them now as a 56-year-old grandmother with two grown children, I tend to like to watch them, number one, as a Christian feminist, as a Black Christian feminist. There's a lot of very telling things going on many of these shows. And I've seen people say, well, I don't know that they don't age well. Well, they're really kind of not meant to age well. My purpose in watching them is, my purpose for watching them is to see, number one, because of the issue of intersectionality. You get to see how far we've come when it comes to the issue of race and sex. Race and sex being biological sex, male or female. And really, to be perfectly honest with you, sexual attitudes also. I plan on doing a podcast on sexual behavior in the counterculture, and talk about the 60s and 70s, like attitudes, sexual attitudes, and how they have progressed over the past few decades. So, I've been watching episodes of Paternity Court, and a young man came on there to find out if his biological father was one of the Shylights. So for those of you who don't know, like if you're oldies R&B like me and your mom and dad, so for me at 56 it would have been my mom and dad and my uncles, but let's say you're younger than me, maybe you're a millennial like my children, then it would be your grandparents. If you're Generation Z, maybe your great-grandparents, if you're listening to this. Music that they like to get together at each other's house, play cards, have them a little drinky drink, and sit down and listen to some old music. So the Shylights were one of the groups. I remember my favorite song by the Shylights with me and my father was Have You Seen Her? So if you have, one thing I will give, I know Spotify is a little controversial for some people right now because of the whole royalty breakdown, but they are one of the most excellent streaming services for looking up all kinds of different music, because I participate in a vocal chorus here, and I'm not quitting that either. I've been able to find music between them and YouTube, I'm able to find music that I can practice to to practice my part and practice different things. So, Have You Seen Her was one. Old Girl was another one, which I think a John Paul Jones, I think it was, redid in the 80s. So they had a local DJ come on there and talk about men in the entertainment industry and many of their sexual behavior at that time period. So we're talking about possibly around the 70s when this young man was conceived. And so it was funny because they already had an episode where a young lady found out that the same guy was her father. And so her and the other brother were now against this guy. And all I could think was, girl, you just found out about a minute and a half ago that he's your daddy. So why are you messing with this young man and acting as though he's being extra for wanting to know who his father is? And so they brought another one of their siblings. So by the time it was all done, they guessed that he may have fathered about 50 some kids, or 50, 60 kids. Now, there's an old blues singer named Howlin' Wolf. Oh, no, not Howlin' Wolf. Screamin' Jay, the one who has I Got a Spell on You. Screamin' Jay Hawkins. So it's rumored that Screamin' Jay Hawkins' descendants might be close to 3 digits. I'm not sure. Now, one of the things that this DJ said was because of the behavior, first of all, men in the entertainment industry, period, and I can remember, like seeing a few people's behind the musics and their unsungs, and how many marriages have been broke up because of the temptation, which I think men kind of get a pass, or try to take passes when it comes to that kind of thing. And so, there are certain time periods where you had young people that were in rebellion. And so because so one generation was in a rebellion against the prior generation that has strict or pretended to have stricter morals. And yeah, because there's an awful lot of folks walking around here with half sisters and men walking around with side babies for y'all to be as strict as you pretend to be. But he was, what I'll call them men that are extremely generous with their seed. So the 70s were a little bit more laxed because people were coming out of, the 60s, you had what they call the sexual revolution, which came into the 70s. And then the 80s, I tell people all the time, the 80s, women were like men after a while. We had so many varieties of birth control available to us that we forgot that we could get pregnant. I think a lot of us forgot that we can get pregnant. Like that stuff is not 100 proof, and that you can get pregnant. Plus, our earning power was such that if we got pregnant, then we had the decision of whether or not to carry the baby to term or have an abortion. Our earning power was such that we were not really worried about if we got pregnant because, we decide, maybe I'm getting, a certain amount of age. Maybe I want to go ahead and have the baby and raise it. And to be perfectly honest with you, the 80s saw a lot of things that were considered to be, a faux pas back in the day. Like back in the day, you didn't have as many actresses adopted. The entertainment industry was always kind of the leader when it came to certain things. So things that were taboo in like the 50s or 60s, like having children out of wedlock, by the time the 80s rolled around, it was all over. It really was. The 80s saw the introduction of artificial insemination. So women no longer had to wait until marriage to go ahead and have a child and be a mom. I mean, that's really what a lot of that is. And so a lot of people, get on young women's case and, say stuff, and it's like, but what you're not understanding is most of that was rebellion against having to date, having to go through the whole thing of dating, meeting the right guy, putting yourself together with their gene pool, and making sure they weren't half crazy before you had children with them. The 80s saw women going and getting artificially inseminated. They could do research. They could go to the sperm bank and do research on a possible donor. They could research his ethnicity. They could research his level of education. Hopefully he wasn't lying when he turned in his information. They could do all of that, and you basically had the birth of the designer baby. Okay, and that's what they called them. They called them designer babies because it was basically like being able to design your own baby. To design your baby, you no longer had to. In fact, if you really got, if you got these fertilized eggs, if you really got down to it, you could get sperm together and do your level best to try to design the gender. Because all you had to do, if you wanted a boy, all you had to do was make sure that a Y met up with an X. If you wanted a girl, then you had two X's. So you got to the point where we just really got all up in God's business and started, and really, a lot of people felt that way. I feel that way? I would have to say, I kind of understood if, having, a certain gender is that important to you, having them be, but to me, I almost felt like it takes the mystery out. It takes the surprise out, which is kind of one of the things that, you kind of look forward to. Now, my daughter found out that she was having a boy early on. And, being mom, I supported her but I was just like, after a while, it just takes all the mystery out. You no longer get to do the gender reveal parties, which, you don't get the specialness of holding them and finding out, well, it's a boy or it's a girl. I remember the first time they passed my son over top of me, and he was crying and wondering what they looked like, and he looked like his father and my father. But listening to him or whatever, and my daughter being able to finally see this person that you've been carrying on the inside of you, and seeing what they look like, and seeing, and let's face it, God sends them to you little and cute, little and adorable, because if you had to do this whole parenting thing the other way around, it probably would be less people doing it. If you went through what they call that Benjamin, what's his name, that Brad Pitt played in that movie with Taraji P. Henson, if you had to go backwards, you probably would not parent. Okay, I say that with humor, but for real, that cute little bundle of joy that looks at you and coos and all this other stuff, that's what gets your heart. Once they get your heart, that's when So I was looking at, I have a couple of content creators that I look at that are African, seem like nice ladies or whatever. I haven't, done any. Since I've been watching YouTube on TV, I haven't really done a whole lot of commenting and going back and forth with the content creators like I normally am able to do. I thank God that He favors me to be able to have conversations with some of my favorite people. And so one of them posted this thing up, and to show you just how sick and tired women are of dating. This guy took this girl out on a date, And first of all, the way he was dressed, I was like, you really thought somebody was going to sleep with you dressed like that? Like, you mean you really came out the house like you don't got no uncles, older brother, or father, or somebody that could have told you that ain't the outfit to wear, my son. So he comes out and he has on this t-shirt, which t-shirts aren't bad, but the t-shirt looked like it has seen better days. The hair on his face was not chiseled. Like, I like men with hair on their face or whatever, but I like it to be a little, it could have been a little, he could have been a lot, he could have been better groomed. He could have been better groomed. And it reminds me of a situation I had not that long ago, probably about 10 years ago. And this guy, I was in my 40s, and this guy was meeting me. I was still in school doing my undergrad, and this guy came to meet me. And so I'm like, okay, I believe, even I'm to my BBW women, and I am a BBW. I'm a big, beautiful woman. Three B's, black, beautiful, and big. To my and to be honest with you, we keeps it together. Never let anybody tell you that you're too big to be able to dress, and where they're making some really cute clothes for heavy set women. So I like to represent. I like to represent for those of us that are full figure. So I wore, this cute little, it was summertime. I had this cute little vest on and these cute little bell-bottom pants that looked really cute together, weather appropriate, cute to wear. Like I said, I believe in being cute and comfortable. You don't have to, you can dress cute and still, you can still be comfortable and dress cute. So, I wore my little stuff, and I think I put on a little bit of lipstick when I was expected to meet him. This dude shows up with this dingy white t-shirt on, dingy, shorts, smelled like he had took a bath in bourbon and booze. And I was like, I can't believe somebody came out the house to meet me and you're not bringing your best self. That bothers me when guys do that. It bothers me a lot. So I'm looking at this. So, that brought back memories of this meeting. So I'm looking at this tape, and this guy is dressed like he's dressed. But then he turns around and he tells the woman, he finds out that the woman doesn't want to sleep with him. You can't make this stuff up. He decides that she doesn't want to sleep with him, so he decides he's not going to pay for dinner. And they look like they were in some place like TGI Fridays or Applebee's, something that's, casual dining, a place where, you don't have to dress up. You could go for your prom, I think, with some of these places. But I've been to both. Both of them are not bad places to eat. They've come a long way because I saw something that was interesting, that the whole purpose behind TGI Fridays was so that people could meet, so that single people could meet other single people. Useful information. But it was basically, a place like that where you could go in there and safe enough to take your kids because they've, since evolved. But also a, pretty decent date place too. So he hands her back her portion of the check and says, well, since, ain't no sex gonna happen, you can pay for your own share and you can find your own way home. And all I could think was, where they do that? I'm like, okay, first of all, you're not dressed to be getting any ass, okay? You're not dressed for it. Like, you don't even look good. Okay. And then on top of that, like, he wasn't a gentleman at all. And one thing I have to say to men, and this is men everywhere, dating isn't prostitution. You are not entitled to sex from a woman just because you spent money. Dating is not transactional. The purpose of dating is to collect data. You're supposed to be trying to get to know this person to see if they are right for you to spend time with and build a life together. That's the traditional reason for courtship, was to get together and see if someone's right and see if there's somebody you want to marry. Now, I'm just like, I couldn't believe this. And I was like, you mean to tell me there are men who actually do this? And I'm like, first of all, number one, my advice to women everywhere, make sure you have at least $100. If you're going out on a date and it's a first date, to have at least $100 on you. Okay, so just in case you run into somebody like this, you're okay. Also, you should go in your own car. If you already have a car, you should. I don't even trust Uber nowadays because they've been raping women here lately. If you don't have a car, at least have enough for a cab. Now, here in Columbus, yellow cab, all you got to know is 7 4s. All you have to know is 7 4s, and I think they even have an app now where you can, contact them. I used to drive for Yellow, so I used to pick up a whole lot of young ladies and deliver them home or whatever, and to me, they're a little safer than Uber. But if you feel like doing it, Uber and Lyft still exist, or have a relative drop you off and be available in case you need to be picked up. Well, if you need to be picked up, you need to be picked up. If the date goes that well, you've already exchanged contact information, so you can call them and let them know, man, or call them the next day and let them know, how impressed you were with the date. If it goes as bad as this date was going, you can block them from your phone. But it was just like, I could not believe, like, the men were letting him have it. I think only one little white guy was in agreement. Well, she was just looking for blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, well, how do you know that soon? Like, that's kind of one of the record ways that you know that a man ain't in it. That they're not dating, that they're really not dating. If your purpose is to date for marriage or to have a good relationship or committed relationship, one of the ways you know that they're not serious is if they're doing a bunch of transactional nonsense. Any type of tackiness, the presence of game playing is basically, how you know they're not serious. And you want somebody serious, not serious as far as lacking a sense of humor, but serious, like, are they serious about you? I always think it's interesting that you have all these men that talk about provide and protect, which usually those aren't the ones that are doing this kind of stuff, but you have those who say it and then turn around and do this kind of stuff. So, I always think it's interesting that the people will tear their rear end with you, mess up with you, and then turn right around and then want everybody to be sympathetic. I don't have no sympathy for that kind of stuff. Like I said, dating's not prostitution. Dating is supposed to be a way of dating is an investment. Like, this is, you're getting to know somebody to see if they are future mate, if they're significant other material. And he wasn't by a long shot. And I can remember being in a couple of Facebook groups, and they were asking a few guys trying to test the water. And I said, any guy that tells me that he's not spending money on me if I don't give out any coochie is not going to date me. We're not dating because your attitude is already off. When they do stuff like that, that's what's telling you is that their attitude is already off. And a few ladies like me were looking at his outfit, and I'm like, you couldn't have been more unattractive showing up. So how do you figure somebody is supposed to, like, you should at least, like, if a woman came to a date looking like you looked, would you want to sleep with her? I don't know. Some of y'all probably would, because some of y'all scare me with the fact that, with the fact that you will sleep with pretty much anybody. Okay? And I'm not a woman who shames other women. But, it's just something that I had to get off my chest. So tonight I looked at The Voice. I can't say I'm continue to watch. I'm a loyal fan, but I can't say that I like the way they're doing this season, especially since it's the last season for Blake Shelton. Now they've made announcements, and Reba McEntire is going to be a coach next year. I'm excited about that. I like Reba. Like, I have never been what I would call a serious connoisseur of country music, but I have country artists that have songs that I really do like. I'm a big fan of Dolly Parton. You can't tell me nothing about Dolly. I like Dolly almost as much as I like Chaka Khan. Like, in that same age group, both of them is still kicking. Like, I like those women that are still kicking up dust until they pushing up daisies. Because that's the kind of woman I plan on being. Okay, let me be able to kick up dust until I push it up daisies. So I really love me some Dolly Parton. I like Reba McEntire. She's had quite a few songs that I've liked. Dixie Chicks, or now they call themselves the Chicks. I like their music. Loretta Lynn had a lot of stuff I liked or whatever. There's been quite a few of them. Leanne Rimes, I liked her rendition of Blue. I tend to like music that goes into that traditional sound. So I liked when Leanne Rimes, and I also liked her version of How Will I Live Without You? Even though the version that got played the most was Trisha Yearwood, Garth Brooks' wife, and she did a good job too. So Garth was a pretty good artist. Garth is a pretty good artist. He's had music that I like. So I can't say that I don't have the attitude of not being able to stand country music, because I've been a fan of a lot of country artists. I was a fan of Kenny Rogers when he was alive. And I did an Eclectic Weekends where I talked about the black presence in country music. There are a lot of black country artists out there. Charlie Pride is not the only brother singing country. There are plenty of people singing country that are black. And so, I look forward to, seeing a whole season with Reba and listening to her coach. They are getting a lot of judges. They are getting a lot of judges that are like, like when they said they were getting John Legend, I was like, okay. Now this season they had Chance the Rapper, which I thought was pretty cool. They have the one little guy from One Direction on there and everything. So, that's cool too. But the way they're doing it this season, it's like, it seems very rushed. And I'm like, for this to be the last season for Blake Shelton, looked like they would have, But I think a lot of times when they're doing those really rush seasons, it's almost like everybody's calendar is full. So let us hurry up and get this season, knock this season out the way. I think Kelly Clarkson is taking a break next season because I don't see her listed as a coach. But they have announced the coaches, and Reba's one of them. I can't remember the other one. I'll have that information maybe this Friday. But like I said before, but they have some pretty good people. The only thing is like whenever I watch it, I play along with the app, and so I wind up filling up my team really quick. Next season I think I'm gonna slow it up a little bit because I wind up filling up my team really quick, and then I wind up with people that I would love to add but can't. And the way the app is doing it, like you get points the longer you keep people on your team. So the people that I'm finishing up with is, well, actually, I can't remember if the Holly girl got picked tonight or not, but I know the three sisters, the trio, got picked, so they're still on there. Holly, I think, what's his name, Nouvelle got picked over her, and so I was like, so at least one of my people is still on there. So it's gonna be something to see which one of them, because I had a winner. I think of myself to have pretty good taste in music and artists, because most of the people that I'm still a fan of, I was a fan from like the first album. Like I'm a day oneer with a lot of people who have been in the industry for like about 30, almost 30 some years. And then there's other people like Diana Ross, Chaka Khan, Aretha Franklin, that I kind of was born into being a fan, because my mother and different people in my family were fans before I was born. But one thing with this music thing, I'm not going to quit. Music is my therapy. I love to put on music and sing, and when I'm not in a very good mood, I love to sing. Music changes your atmosphere. When I've talked about this before, when you are ready to get in the mood, what you do, you put on music to set that tone. Well, God created that gifting for us to be able to lead worship, so that you are able to hear the pastor's message and have it bear fruit in your heart. So part of the tilling of that ground when you're listening to music is to be able to have a receptive heart to the word that is going to be coming forth. You're preparing your hearts. And I've seen people because my background is what they call Pentecostal. So Pentecostal is not the denomination. Pentecostal is those denominations that believe in being baptized in the Holy Spirit, evidenced by speaking in tongues. Those are also the name it, claim it, grab it, blab it people that people make fun of. Those are also the people that believe in laying hands and being delivered or being healed or divine healings. So we like that. Anyway, so I have been in services where the music service was so tough and so awesome, and the spirit was moving so tough that the pastor didn't even get a chance to preach, because all of the ministry was taking place during the worship service. And I kind of want to be that type of music minister where I can just, minister to you by way of song if necessary, by way of the word. Um, One of these times I'm going to get up here and teach about the outer court, the inner court, and the holy of holies, and get into real depth with that, um, and show you how that works, how it pulls you, how you get pulled in, and now you know are in the holy of holies, which is the presence of God, and real worship takes that pattern. And so it's awesome. I can remember the last few times that I was with the vocal chorus, singing myself into a holy high, to the point where I came out and I was high. I was just like, you know what, that's it. And I got ministered to real tough, and I like that. So I'm staying with it. I'm not quitting anything. So tonight just is one of those nights where I just kind of felt like, free for all. I still want to talk about, let me see here. So one of the things that I wanted to discuss is spiritual abuse. So let me look here, because it was something. Oh, using the separation of church and state to so using the separation of church and state as as a pass to commit abuse. So I've talked about freedom of religion. I talked about religious discrimination. I believe I talked about religious persecution. So, there's belief bias. I'm going to discuss all of these this coming Friday. This Friday, I will go live at midnight. I'm not going to I'm not going to stand you guys up like I did this past Friday. This past Friday, ever since I've been talking about spiritual abuse or religious abuse, I've had to deal with a lot of warfare. And the warfare, not all supernatural warfare comes from outside the church. Many times, supernatural warfare comes from within the church, because, you have people in the church that aren't living right. And, you have people, it's impossible for the devil to use Christians against each other. That is a lie. It is very much possible for a born-again Christian to be used against someone else. Even Jesus said to Peter, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And Peter was proclaiming his loyalty and everything else. And he, called him, Satan, because of the whole issue of him getting in the way of God's purpose for Jesus. He was sent here. There's a song by Michael W. Smith, crucified, lay behind a stone. You live to die, rejected and alone. I think that those are the words. But awesome song if you get a chance to find it on YouTube and you just want to, get into your prayer closet and you want something to play. It is a good one to play. I also like Fred Hammond's, what is the name of that song? Bread of Heaven. Yeah, because I'm going to sit over here and mess and be a hot mess if I can't. Mm, I'll know it by this. I'll find it. But let me see here. Let me look. You Are the Living Word. Another song that is good for your prayer time is You Are the Living Word by Fred Hammond. I tend to like music when you're talking about gospel or Christian music. I like that music that gives you the definition of who Jesus is. Many times we get so caught up in what he can do for us and prayers and this, that, and the other, but we have to remember that he's the author and finisher of our faith. And it is more important to remember it at this time because of so much that's going on in the world. There are so many false teachings going on. I've got a couple of podcasts that I'm going to record tomorrow. One of them, I'm going to talk about the Marcus Garvey and the Back to Africa movement. Another one I want to talk about. So I was looking at this tape, and this little white girl, said, if Adam and Eve were the first man and woman on earth, then where did slavery come from? So I'm going to talk about the history of slavery. I'm also going to talk about some of the very racist teachings that many people have used Christianity to teach some really bad falsehoods about black people. So let me say this, dear black people, you are not cursed. So if you grew up in a church that taught you were cursed because of Cain and Abel, or the other false teaching is because of Ham and his father, the curse of Ham, and calling us the sons of Ham. Number one, most African Americans or Africans are thought to descend from the tribe of Cush, not the tribe of Canaan. The original Canaanites were wiped out. They no longer exist. When God curses a people, he takes them out of here. Okay, they were wiped out. And the curse was not really God cursing them. It was Noah cursing them because, his sons, I'll get into that when I do the podcast. But I've got a couple of interesting things I want to teach here. So I want to talk. I'm still going to talk about spiritual abuse as far as my lives. But let me see here. So I want to talk about black people. How are black people cursed? And I'm going to answer that question. Okay, well, being a black person, I'm going to tell you, we ain't cursed. I'm also going to talk about the history of slavery. I also want to talk about, let me see here, how the smart black girls. I want to talk about the Cleopatra race controversy, but I also am planning on talking about, let me see, what was the one thing that I was talking about? Oh, hate crime legislation. So I'm also going to talk about hate crimes. And I'm going to discuss the two cases. That's going to be out of my true crime blog, podcast. I'm going to talk about the case of Matthew Shepard and James Byrd, and how those two cases were integral in what we call now hate crime legislation. One of the reasons, even though I know that Christianity teaches that homosexuality is an abomination and different other things, one of the reasons why I maintain a loving relationship with the LGBTQ community, or try to be kind or whatever, is because of the amount of people who use Christianity as a pass to be mean and rude and hateful toward homosexuals. I really believe that attitude is one of the reasons why Matthew Shepard is no longer with us. And he was not, during the time that he was beaten, there were several crimes that kept making it into the news about young men who were being beat up and bludgeoned for being gay. And I said before, and I'll say it again, I feel like the Black church constantly gets this bad rap of being homophobes, or being, against homosexuals and hateful toward homosexuals, when these cases happened and these were white males who did this to other white males. Most mainstream religions have teachings that don't support homosexuality. Okay? So it isn't just Christians. There are many religions, mainstream religions, that teach against homosexuality. Just something that I feel like you should know. So I am going to get back into my recording chair this week and record some more podcasts. And Friday I will be up and I will talk some more about spiritual abuse. So you guys have a good one. I see that it's been 46 minutes. You guys enjoy your week. Try to stay out of trouble. Enjoy, for those of you, to the mothers yesterday, belated happy Mother's Day. For those of you that are new mommies, welcome to the club. To those, I've seen some of my favorite people have become grandmas. Welcome to that club too. I'm here to tell you now, you are going to love it. You are going to enjoy it. The Grandma Club is such a wonderful club to be able to impart and enjoy those little people and spoil them and send them home to their mommy and daddy. But they're so much fun. Like I tell people all the time, my children were fun to raise. They really were. Probably because I've been around kids all my life. When your family is the size of a small country on both sides, you get to watch a lot of people grow up. And so my little cousins were fun. My little cousins, I loved them. My little cousins were fun to raise and to watch grow up. And I tell some of them now, because some of them, became grandmas before I did. And I'm like, God, I remember when you were the same age as your grandchildren. Like, my Lord. So they were already fun to spend time with and watch grow and develop and get into things. Me and my grandson, he's 4 now, and we're having complete conversations. He loves to talk to me and tell me things or whatever, and point out stuff. He's just really, really getting big. And, some of the conversations we have crack me up. So you guys have a good one. Enjoy the rest of your week. And I will be back live this Friday, and we'll talk to you. Bye-bye.